This is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Michael Mitchell works in the transportation industry in Houston, where he grew up and planted the seeds for the book he would write years later, entitled Cerebral.
You know, starting to write has been an integral part of my life ever since I was a youngster. And I originally went into my grandfather's office when I was young. He had a income tax service, and I was playing on his typewriter, and I started writing about the family, and that's originally where it started.
How old were you?
About 11. That's when I started writing.
Okay.
The story Cerebral is a work of fiction, and it was compiled of several little adventures that I've had. And it's about a private detective, Keith Travis. Keith Travis works exclusively with high-end clientele, and he solved every case he's been hired for. And he finds himself in the middle of a tremendous war between two family patriarchs, something that would be a routine case for him, but it has him struggling with dedication and duty. He's compelled to solve the case, but he struggles with personal issues.
Like what?
Like his wife is diagnosed with cancer, and he is away on the case, and he can't be there with her, and it's tearing him apart because he loves her dearly.
So is it a cliffhanger?
You know what? That's a very good question. I'm glad that you asked that, because it is.
Can you give me a hint?
I can't give you a hint. It ends with Keith Travis vowing to take care of another principal character in the story. And he vows to avenge everything that he's gone through.
You know, in the worst possible year, this past year.
Hasn't it been terrible? It's just been terrible.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And you know what? When I'm doing this show, you know, every writer's got like their prescription for, you know, how to promote a book during a pandemic, you know?
Right. Well, social media is an integral part of promotion. And the oldest way of promotion, word of mouth. It seems that there are a couple of people who kind of like what they're reading, and they're talking about it. So the word is getting out. And of course, this radio interview will help immensely.
You think? Do you think?
As a matter of fact, I do.
I mean, I hope so. All we can do is put it out there and talk about it.
Yeah.
But you're saying word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Got any book clubs down there?
I do, as a matter of fact.
Do you?
I don't personally, but a very good friend of mine. He's a brother from another mother. We grew up together, and his sister is in a book club, and it's about, I think she said it was about 60 women. And amazingly enough, women find that this read is very interesting.
Wow. Must have some romance in it.
It definitely has some romance.
Oh, we love that. We love romance.
I'm going to do a little read in front of them here soon, shortly.
I bet you're good at that.
Why would you say that?
Because you have a great voice. You really do have a great voice.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Which leads me to the next one. I mean, are you going to actually stand in front of these women, or is it going to be like a Zoom situation?
I think it will be a situation where I can actually stand in front of them. With the vaccine going forward here and everywhere else, the numbers are going down as far as the COVID-19 is concerned.
So you might actually be able to do some book signings then.
That is my hope.
Your numbers are good?
That is going extremely well.
Now, how so?
Well, my wife is keeping a very close eye on sales as they're going forward. And according to Amazon, they have sold out twice, and they've had to order more books. So, yeah.
Good for you, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
And we're looking forward to that sequel.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
All
ma'am.
right.
It'll be my pleasure.
Alan K. Lascelles did his share of tech writing while he was working in the construction industry, but he discovered the joy of writing novels when he retired, and doing nothing just wasn't an option. Long Years and Losers is the beginning of Alan's new career.
I have 3 books that are a series. The first one is Todd. The second one is The Orchard. The third is Long Years and Losers.
Do you have to read the first 2 before you read this one?
No, they're all standalone.
Okay.
However, it's like any series of books. If you read them all in order, you get more out of it. But they're standalone books as well. But Long Ears and Losers, the last book, is just a continuation of a family by the name of Gartenberg that lives in a small town in New Mexico. And they've just adopted a lot of animals, and the animals in turn have adopted them. And the human element and the human and animal interaction is part of it. And then there's Ad Gartenberg, the patriarch of the story. He encounters an old friend who tries to kill him, shoots him, and he ends up in the hospital and almost dies, but he recovers from it. And he's helped along out of his injury by a man that they bought the mules from by the name of Paddy O'Brien, who hails from Sholo, Arizona. Anyway, there's a bit of romance in the book. There's a lot of animals, as I said. Almost anything when it comes to living that you can encounter. After Ad gets shot, of course, he goes to the hospital, spends some time in the hospital. He recovers with the help of Paddy O'Brien. They continue. Paddy O'Brien shows his generosity and his love of humanity. He's like a lot of old horse traders and mule traders. He loves people, and I've been around people like that most of my life. And most of those old horse traders, mule traders, are very personable people who just have a great love for animals and a great love for people. Well, Paddy comes to the Gartenberg family, and he brings some more animals with him and gives them to some of the family members just out of generosity and because he's such a benevolent guy. And his kids are getting older, and he helps Ad transition into the life of, maybe semi-retirement would be the right word. I don't think I ever really used that. But anyway, he helps him transition into a slower kind of life where his kids take over the little ranch that they have. Then Ad and his wife, Janae, they decide what they're going to do later. So they kind of fade out of the picture and decide maybe they're going to do some flying and do some of the things that you do when you get a little bit older and you start to slow down. It somewhat reflects part of my life and what I've done. I'm 73, so I can look back and see myself doing a lot of the things, or see myself having done a lot of the things that Ad Gartenberg does. So, did I answer your question?
You sure did, because we started out, you're talking about how, you just couldn't retire, and you started writing. And then as your story goes on, your character is finding himself much the way you did, finding his way through this kind of transition period.
Well, the things you learn when you talk to other people.
I don't know. That's what I got.
No, I meant that as a compliment, an absolute compliment, ma'am.
So, locally, have you been able to generate some interest in your book?
Well, before this COVID fiasco, I had, a number. I can't even tell you how many book signings that I had. There's a couple of places locally that I held several book signings, and I sold, quite a few books there. Now, if I was depending on this as to eat, I'd be pretty hungry, but it's just a great, great pastime for me. But I have hopes of doing something greater someday.
Good for you, Alan. That's the spirit. Greg Melton studied art before he was drafted during the Vietnam War, and the life he led when he returned is the stuff great books are made of. He eventually develops an extraordinary relationship that led to the writing of this children's book entitled The Pyramid Pony. So tell me what you did when you came back from Vietnam.
Well, for many years I was a professional desert rat living in a ghost town out in the desert here in Nevada.
What's that?
That's somebody who lives by their wits in the desert. That's where I went after I came back from Vietnam. I was a crew chief on a Cobra helicopter in Vietnam. Came back and had a hard time adjusting to civilian life. So I moved into an old ghost town. Turned out to be 30 years as a professional desert rat and Nevada artist. It was kind of like the Wild West out there still.
Where's out there?
Sutro, Adolf Sutro, dug a tunnel 4 miles long through the mountain to Virginia City from the Dayton Valley. It's a piece of history. Anyway, Meredith Joyce and I wrote the book after we saw a pony do something very unusual one day. Anyway, after the book was written, I couldn't find an illustrator, so I just decided to illustrate the book myself. So I hope people enjoy the illustrations. It's about a horse, a Mustang pony, hence the Pyramid Pony. We saw out at Pyramid Lake, Nevada one day do something very unusual on the beach. And that's as far as I can go with it. So with the plot, I can't give the book away. The horse did something very unusual on the beach. And if I leave it at that, then they will be enticed to buy the book to find out what the horse did on the beach.
Outside of this unusual thing that the pony does on the beach, is there more to the story?
Oh, yes, a lot.
What?
Meredith and I, Joyce, she was 9 years old at the time we were fishing. We saw the horse do something unusual.
And who is Meredith?
Meredith is a friend of mine I met when she was 9 years old. My mother came down with Alzheimer's. Meredith Joyce's mother helped me with that 10 years. So Meredith was always around. She was a very intelligent little girl. We became very good friends. So one day we were fishing out at Pyramid Lake, Nevada, next to the pyramid, just offshore. And all of a sudden we looked over by the shore and there was this wild Mustang pony came down from the mountainside and did something very unusual on the beach. And Meredith and I watched it for a while. We discussed what we were seeing. Then we had to leave, and then on the way back, about 5 miles, we kept talking about it, thought it would be a good children's book. And by the time we got to the shore, we pretty much had the book outlined. Then it was a matter of writing it and polishing it, editing it, and all that kind of stuff. It's a book about life lessons for the children. We thought the children should learn something from the book, so there's life lessons in it. One of the lessons is just because something looks good, it doesn't necessarily mean it is good for you.
Good.
It's about helping others who need help. To show children they should prepare for bad times, but don't forget to enjoy the beauty in the world. Treasure your friends, but look out for those who do harm to you. This is what the book is pretty much based on, this one here. We want the children to know that family is so very important, whether it's the one you were born into or the one you create through deep friendships. Let wild things be wild and enjoy them from a distance. The story is woven around those lessons, life lessons, that Meredith and I think children should learn about. Well, Meredith was 9 when we started writing the book. Meredith is a lovely 16-year-old, and she's a horse girl. There's a picture of her and her horse on the back of the book, of the summary. There's a Wild Horse Society in Reno. They have a catalog. I'm going to put the book with them. And I'm going to give this book to Fish and Game office in Reno. I'm going to take a book in there and give it to them and see if they have any program in which they might have a government contract for the book to give out to tourists and stuff who come into the area.
That's the way to get it out there, Greg. Good for you. All right, we got to take a quick break, but we are coming right back. This is the Page Publishing Book Club. Stay with us.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything: copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
All right, we're back on the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. He is the pride of Cleveland and needs no introduction because he wants to do it himself. Meet Frank Maverick II, author of Cornflakes, a joke book about corny jokes. Take it away, Frank.
Okay, I'm Frank Maverick II. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and I rock. I have a joke book called Cornflakes, Corned Flakes. It's a collection of clean, clever, witty, corny jokes for people of all ages. And I worked my rear end off for 45 years managing restaurants and working for the main post office downtown for 21 years, and where I retired from 5 years ago. And since I worked my rear end off for 45 years, I didn't have a rear end left to sit on, so I had to become a stand-up comic. I was inspired by my best friend, my girlfriend, Kiki, inspired me to write the book. We met in November 2019, and within a couple of months, I wrote the book. Some of my jokes are, my dog just got a new job. He's a roofer. Roof. He said he had a rough day his first day on the job. And I got him a shingles vaccination because he was up on the shingles all day, but he still got sick as a dog. He accidentally fell off the ladder and broke his tail. And they say every dog has his day. Now he has a weekend.
Do you write your own jokes?
I write all my own jokes, yes. When I was younger, I repeated jokes that I heard. When I was managing the restaurants for 21 years, the truck drivers used to tell me jokes, and I would repeat them. And everybody told me I was good at repeating jokes. So it was years before I actually started writing my own jokes. And just recently, in the last 5 years, where I'm actually doing all my own jokes. Every day, I come up with 2, 3, 4 jokes a day a lot of times. And I live in an apartment building. I'm on the 18th floor. And every day when I get in the elevator, people ask me, what's the joke of the day? And I have a new joke for them every time I see them. I never tell the same person the same joke twice.
Have you ever done any open mics or stand-up?
Yes, I've done quite a few. I appeared at the Improv in October of 2018 in Chicago. That was my stage debut, and I won. I also appeared at the Cleveland Improv, and I won both of those appearances.
When you say you won, what do you win?
Well, you get to go back again and do another show.
So this pandemic really messed you up, huh?
Yeah.
I guess you're talking about your book at your building.
So I sold 80 copies in my building in 3 weeks. That was in October and November.
Good for you.
It's sold out already, and it hasn't really even been advertised yet. I advertise by word of mouth, and I'm planning on using the power of radio now.
Okay.
I know this is going to go out in New York City, so I went to Subway restaurant, and I ordered a ticket from Cleveland to New York, but they said they didn't have any. And I said, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to file a complaint over a foot long. Why did they always have 2 drivers in an ambulance? Because they were paramedics. And also, a lady 5'9" was taken by ambulance to the hospital. When she got there, she was 6'2". Do you know why?
Why?
She was on a stretcher.
All right, Frank, I guess we could go on all day. How many jokes are in this book?
There's 44 pages. They put a lot on each page.
Okay.
To conserve paper. And there's a lot of color pictures. I paid extra for color pictures.
Okay.
I thought it would make the book a lot nicer.
All right, Frank, thanks so much. Have you ever literally felt someone's pain or felt them, moving their arm or their leg? Well, it could be something called mirror neurons at work. Scientists have reportedly found that humans grabbing an object or hearing a sound like glass shattering exhibit the same brain activity as the person actually involved in the activity. Now, it's believed these mirror neurons are also linked to emotional systems in our brain, and they can be used for healing. It sounds crazy, I know, but this is what Bonnie Wright Miller explains in her book, Apples and Orchards, the Suggestive Imaging Series, Book 2. It's a follow-up to her book, The Right Image. So explain, Bonnie.
The mirror cells that we have react to things you either think about or you read about or you hear that involve movement. Mirror cells are always tuned into anything that you might be looking at or hearing, even if someone else is talking about it. If someone else is talking about, they're going to use their hand right now. They recognize you hearing that and they'll respond. And the way they respond is in a very remarkable way, which is producing more brain activity that actually enhances the brain functions to improve learning and improve the ability to think. The apples and orchards is actually based on one aspect of the mirror imaging, which is reaching when you reach for something. Even when you're planning a shopping trip, that's how it all starts. Because once the image cells begin to realize that you're planning a trip, they really kick in. They really begin to notice where's she going, even where the location where you're going. You're going to a store down the street. They'll take note of that because they're interested in anything you're going to be doing with your hand. Not so much the driving part, but it has to do more or less with what you're going to be shopping for. If you're going to be shopping for apples, okay? So therefore, well, she's going to be using a hand in about an hour. So literally, it's like a second voice in your head tuning in to this. Literally, they will keep track of how long it's going to take you to get there. And they want to know exactly how you're going to go about this. Okay, well, do you like these apples? Do you not like these apples? You know, and keep in mind that mirror cells always want you to pick out the most perfect apples. Are in perfect shape. They're shiny because they want you to have the healthiest apple, the freshest one possible. They store the memories of the hand image that you used the last time you picked out an apple. So literally, they have a memory of you picking on an apple the last time you picked out an apple. And so they begin to use that memory of that you have to begin to compare how you're going to be using the hand. When you reach for the apple, when you think about the apple you want, literally this is all built into the brain already. Mirror cells store these images for you already on how you used the hand previously because they want you to use the hand the same way. The main gist of it is that this can be used to actually heal injuries in the brain that already exist. And it can be used to improve conditions that people already have, which can be anything from distractions, depression, ADD, because what happens when you use the hand or use any part of the body, the brain actually uses all parts of the brain when you plan a movement. And and it makes sense because you need to use all your senses when you're moving so that nothing happens to you.
All right, Bonnie, it's all very interesting. For more information, go to BonnieWrightMiller.com. Tricia Harper was in a coma in 2016, and that's what inspired her book, Life's a Dream, Dead or Alive. Tricia, what happened?
I had an amazing dream in that coma. I didn't tell anybody about the dream. I just wrote notes on it. That turned out to be a book. You know, people looked at it and they're like, well, this got to have a little bit more. So I just added more to it and then decided I'd make it a biographical fiction kind of thing.
So Violet, like you, suffers with epilepsy.
Yes.
Do you also suffer from a rare form of epilepsy?
Yes, I do, ma'am. Since I was 6 months old, I got bit by a spider. Got a fever of 112. 2 months later, I got another fever, and I wound up going into a seizure for 24 hours. That's when I was diagnosed with epilepsy, and they were assuming it was from the spider bite. So Violet is going to college to be an author, and she has 2 children, and she's married. Happily married. Her health starts getting real bad with chest pains and things like that. Her and her husband are arguing a lot, and she doesn't want to tell him how bad it gets. It gets to a point when they're fighting, she passes out on the porch, and he winds up calling their friend Trina, and they have to carry her into the car for him to take her to the hospital. The hospital winds up putting her in a coma. There's no chance at all for her to live if they don't put her in a coma. She's in the coma for 7 days, and in that coma, she has an amazing dream. She sees a lot of her past. She saw people being molested and drinking over there and being beat and things like that. She wanted to go over and help him. When she tried to, her legs were kind of chained to the bed itself. There's 8 other beds in the room with her. Nobody will talk to her. One of them points to a Bible that's on the bedstand next to them. She winds up looking through it, and she sees verses that are highlighted. And right at the end of the coma, the hospital door opens, and she can't tell for sure because it was a little bright, but somebody walked in and got two people to go out with them. She asked them to come get her, and they just like shook their head up and down and turned around and left.
So this coma kind of helps her figure out some things that went on in her past that maybe she was hiding.
Yeah, you're saying that, and now I realize what that dream was. It was God telling me I need to let my past go, because if it's my time's up. These chains are on me, and I haven't let anything go. That's why He's got the chains on me. Let it go and let God have it. And she gave her life to God. It was done on a 69 News thing on the internet. I've put information on my Facebook page, and yeah, I mean, I just tell people when they see them. That's the best I can do.
Do you feel like you're generating some interest?
I pray to God I am. So far, people have told me they've gotten it. So,
hey, it's a good start, Tricia. Thanks so much. And that's a wrap for this edition of the Page Publishing Book Club. I hope it's feeling like spring wherever you are. Thanks for being with us. And, I'm thinking you should really share all the good information we get from this show every week, not to mention the inspiration, right? By telling your people. Tell your people. Download the podcast at 710WOR.com. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. I'll catch you next time.